Hello, Steve White, Trek Boy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, I'm doing a sequel to like one of my own videos. I just did one about a statement Alex Kurtzman made in the Ready Room, which I found parts of it really triggering. And then after I watched it, I saw Rob My Burnett do a video about this same quote, basically, and he found other parts of it that were incredibly triggering, which totally went over my head. The irony of it all went over my head, and I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. Now, the quote that we have is in relation to creating new Star Trek projects, and it seems to be very defensive. It seems to be sort of setting up the idea that if there's no new Star Trek in the near future, from Kurtzman, it's because I only want to make another Star Trek show if there's something special to say. I don't want to do it just to do more, because one of the criticisms is that all he does is produce Star Trek IP content for Paramount, and it's not actually Star Trek, it's just Star Trek in name only and not good. I think that would be a huge disservice to Star Trek. It would be a huge disservice to the fans. I think fans would feel it instantaneously. They would know it's not authentic, because if there's one thing Star Trek fans know, it's authenticity. So for me, it's really just about finding out a way to make sure that we take our time, we're deliberate, we're thoughtful, and we deliver on the promise of something different every time. Now, the part that I got fixated on was the idea that Star Trek has to be different every time. Yes, you have different settings, different focuses. Each series had a different focus, whether it was a space station or a lost starship or building the Federation or policing the known sort of universe from the flagship. But they all had essential elements that made Star Trek Star Trek. They all had the canon that they adhered to. They all had the same format. They all had the same sort of themes and tones and the lighting, just everything. There was a unified, that was Star Trek. That was the look. That was, what made Star Trek Star Trek. And he's basically pulled all that away, and he's just looking at the general science fiction audience, just not distinguishing between Star Trek fans and regular science fiction fans, and going, well, we'll do a show for this subsection and this subsection and this subsection, and we'll just expand the universe and bring all these fans into the Star Trek fandom. And that's not how it's working. Basically, they're alienating the original fans, and they're not gaining new fans. And the subscriber base for Paramount Pluses for Star Trek is just the same people who've been there the whole time. They're not bringing in new people who've alienated a lot of people like me who would never subscribe to Paramount Plus because of that. But what the part Rob got stuck on was the authenticity of it all, because basically Discovery and New Trek has all been going back and mining old IP and pulling up old things and using ideas that other people supposedly had in novels and proposals for Star Trek. Like allegedly, the fourth and fifth season, third, fourth, fifth seasons of Discovery were based on season 3 was based on the novel Foundation. Not novel, it was a proposal. And that was basically just they go into the future, the Federation has been destroyed, and they have to rebuild it. It's basically like Andromeda, which Gene Roddenberry also created. And there's also the example of AI from season 2 of Discovery. There was apparently a novel called Control, where AI tries to take over the Federation. Allegedly, supposedly, they made that into the second season of Strange New Worlds. And, they were supposed to be getting away from all this by going into the future. They wouldn't have the burden of canon, but yet they still go and pull on things like The Guardian of Forever and The Chase, and they remake things and change things for Strange New Worlds, but it's still New Trek, like The Gorn, where they just make it like Alien, because they thought it'd be cool to have an alien Star Trek. It's just like, it's not Star Trek. It's not like just the idea of him saying all these Star Treks have been authentic, and that is the main thing that you have to do a Star Trek show, when his Star Trek, his era of Star Trek, is the most inauthentic of all the Star Treks in every way. And how the irony of that got past me. I was just focused on the idea of making Star Trek different every time and changing it, and that part of it. I guess there's just so much in this. It's just so loaded that I just missed some of it. But I watched Robert's video and I'm like, yeah, I missed that. But yeah, all that's there. And I know all that stuff. I've heard it all in separate arguments. When you look at the whole thing as a whole, yeah, it's just the most inauthentic Star Trek. And the idea that he's talking about. It's almost like he's trying to gaslight people. Oh, our show is the most inauthentic Star Trek. We'd better tell people that we only care about authenticism and that this is authentic, and we won't produce more Star Trek unless it's authentic. Like, gaslight, 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 Star Trek authentic, Star Trek authentic. It's like that. And I'm like, yeah. So I had to give Rob a little bit of credit for just focusing on that and going for it, and being a little embarrassed that actually it just went over my head and I was looking at other elements of that quote and his statements and just things that bother me about Star Trek. But New Trek, I should say. Should distinguish between New Trek and old Star Trek, original Star Trek, and New Trek, because they're very, very different things. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this article of Kurtzman, and I just really hope Paramount being sold ends this era of Star Trek and we get something different and perhaps even authentic in the future.